Hi, welcome to the Mind of Ro page. So today's subject is going to be on facing our own demons. You like my filter I got going on? I figured it was great for the video. So demons may be human or non-human, separable souls or discarnate spirits which have never inhabited a body. Some of these beings can be created by you, and some of them have been existing prior to you, as in they existed way before you've ever existed. If a demon feeds off of you, or if you feel like there are demons feeding off you, you need to admit that you are agreeing to it. This is a soul contract, and we are only a victim of ourselves. So before I move on, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mind of Ro, or at The Mind of Ro, and my Facebook business page, which is at The Mind of Ro. And I also have a TikTok and a Twitter and an Instagram at Mind of Ro. And my Snapchat is Lil Roro 253. And if you really love my videos, please share my videos and show me some support. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I have more wisdom and enlightenment to share with you. So let's move on. I'm not only going to talk about dealing with our own demons, I'm going to get into the subject of what they really are, a little bit of where the concept came from, what it really means, and how we could deal with them and how we could face them ourselves, and what really are demons and what really aren't. So, demonology is actually the study of and the belief of demons. Yes, so demonology is actually the belief of demons. Therefore, if you believe that demons exist, you're actually practicing demonology. A lot of people don't want to admit that they practice demonology because demonology has been demonized. But if you believe that demons exist, you in fact are practicing demonology. So the etymology of the word demon used to actually be pronounced daemon, which actually means deity or genius deity. I know that sounds really surprising that that's actually what it really means. So let's get into types of demons there are. There's pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, and fate. Now, when I say fate, I mean the false idea of fate. What this means is the illusion that you believe that you have to deal with something or have something happen to you, or something on this planet for existence has to happen due to fate, which would actually go against the concept of free will. So the love of God means we have free will. Therefore, fate is an illusion. So this is why the word fate is actually used under a concept of a demon. Is a lot of times even mediums can be approached by beings telling them that you have to go through this, or you're going to go through this, or the planet is going to go through this, which is a concept of doomsday. A lot of people who even follow me believe in the concept of doomsday, which is the demon of fate. I know it sounds really hard to believe because a lot of people want to be woke these days, and it's a fad to be woke. And as long as you are woke enough to believe that we have a fate of doomsday, therefore you are being followed and stalked by a demon of fate, because that is actually very inaccurate, and you choose what reality you want to live in. Therefore, everything in this whole entire universe is created by collective conscious. Therefore, what you collectively believe will happen and manifest into your life and into your reality, and whatever reality you decide to live after you shed your body. So that's why I say fate can be known as a demon as well. There's also other demons called incubus or succubus. I'm sure some of you have heard of this. Basically, these are beings who like to engage sex, and they have been reported to be seen when you're in between the sleep mode or awake mode, because your body tends to kind of go in a place where you can't move. It means your body's not awake yet, but your brain is awake. So therefore, you're in between awake and, which actually puts you in a state of being in between the physical realm and the non-physical realm. There's actually a scientific kind of reasoning behind that, is because when your brain slows down, it's actually easier for you to comprehend and feel the non-physical realm. And this is actually why children or kids are known to be way more psychic or more in tune with the non-physical realm as adults, because as adults we tend to have a lot more stress in our life, which actually causes our brain waves to speed up. So it's harder for us to be in tune with the spirit realm, which is why we learn that it's good to meditate, because it slows your brain down and it helps you get messages from the great divine web, which is the spirit realm, which is a whole concept of why these beings, who are called incubus or succubus, are seen when you're in between sleep and awake mode. So these beings could be way more activated if you keep having sex. What I've supposedly have heard, that if you keep having sex in front of mirrors, because a mirror is a doorway to another dimension, a lot of these succubus or incubus beings could live off of that energy. How do you know an incubus or succubus is being attached to you? Being promiscuous, having multiple partners, and feeling like you can't control your sex drive and you're just out of control and you just want to just fuck everything that you see and anybody you see. That means you are actually being possessed, or you have a very tight sexual relationship with an incubus or succubus being. There's also another being called a pytho, or I think it might be pitho, but I think it's pronounced pytho, which is a spirit of liars. If you lie a lot, this is this being or demon that is attached to you. So let's go into some basics on how to know demons are around you. I just listed a lot of the basics of pride, jealousy, and those most popular 7 sins. Those are the obvious. Another way you know if there's demons attached to you is, number one thing is actually mental illness. To the extreme, we're not perfect. All of us are going to have some kind of mental illness that we deal with. It's completely normal. It's part of the human experience. But if you're going through a lot of mental illness to the extreme, then there is a demon or demons that's very attached to you or living through you, which is depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, addiction, bipolarism, one of my favorite subjects, narcissism, and anger and vengefulness. So don't feel guilty if you have any of these feelings. It's normal to feel these sometimes, but if it's to the extreme, to where it's at the point where you can't control it and it's controlling your overall life, where you can't enjoy life, you would definitely have some demons that are attached to you. And just know that we all have our demons. These are just basic demons that we. So it all just depends on the measurement of how extremely you're really feeding into these energies. One other thing is disease. So disease is caused by dis-ease, and dis-ease is caused by any emotional and mental imbalances. So basically, if you are emotionally and mentally constantly imbalanced, it will manifest into disease in your body. So disease just doesn't happen overnight. It is a soul agreement for you to have any type of disease, whether it's diabetes, AIDS, high blood pressure, anything that manifests slowly into your life. It is not caused by just catching it, if somebody sneezes in your face, which is, those kind of sicknesses are also still soul agreements. But diseases, like major ones, they take a while for them to manifest. Well, I guess AIDS kind of is sexually transmitted, but anyways, it's a major disease that is manifested into your life that you have soulfully agreed to, because you have created dis-ease within your life and your life habits and your mental habits and your emotional habits. Therefore, we need to own up to those habits before they manifest into disease. So disease, illness, sickness are considered demons as well. So how do you know someone is being possessed by demons? So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to go into like movie possession quite yet. I'm just going to say some basic things. Like, some people could actually be possessed by demons and they're not obvious about it. Here are some signs to know if someone is being possessed or controlled by demons. Is people who constantly attack, control, or put down godly people. As in, I've experienced this myself, that if you are somebody who is really focused on being enlightened and trying to live a much better fulfilled life, you tend to run into people who like to put their foot in the door and get in your way of your enlightenment, as in they try to either physically, mentally, or emotionally control you, or they attack you as in they try to put you down for following your soulful path. Like, for example, you decide you want to be like a priest or something, for example, or a priestess, or you decide that you want to travel the world to go find your, no, you can't do that. Who the hell are you to think that you could do that? And blah, 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 blah. And you shouldn't do that, because if you do that, all these, and then list all these negative things of what's going to happen, or what's going to happen negatively if you make those choices. These are actually people who have demons working through them that are trying to get in the way of your enlightenment. That's how you know people are being controlled by demons. And some people know they're being controlled and they don't give a damn. And some people really, they honestly don't know. Because they're dealing with their own demons, and whatever demons they have is trying to feed off you as well. So another way to know is they have a lot of either frightening expressions on their face, like they're very extreme, like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen it before, where people just look just crazy in the face. I'm sure you've seen famous people, I don't want to say the names, but the people who control the money, I'm sure a lot of you know who I'm talking about, the elite. If you see some of their pictures, they look pretty demonic in the face. They look very unhealthy. They look evil in the face. That's pretty obvious. It shows on their physical appearance. It shows on their face. Or the complete opposite is they have no expression at all. And I don't mean no expression because they got like surgery on their face, which is kind of common to not, have expression on their face if they have surgery. I'm not talking about that. I mean people who actually just look really blank in the face. Have you ever met somebody who like they act like they're being nice to you, but they have like this expression on their face? You're just like, I feel like they're being nice to me, but their face is telling me something else. And you have like this weird under vibe that's saying this person's nice, but they're being a little too nice. Usually people like that are very two-faced. That shows that they have a lot of demons following them around, and they don't want to admit it, and they're hiding it. These type of people have very blank looks on their face, and they're a completely different person behind closed doors, which means they're at completely sweet nice with weird blank faces. But if you find out how they are at home, they're probably constantly screaming at their kids, constantly arguing with their partner, constantly talking shit behind people's backs all the time. Usually these type of people have a very blank look on their face, which is a complete opposite look on their face, but they have no expression at all. It's normal to have resting bitch face. I mean, I have resting bitch face. Sometimes we have that, but I mean like the awkwardly weird, like when you talk to them, you have this gut feeling in your stomach that's like, you just know in your gut that there's just something off about that person when they have like a complete blank look on their face, almost like it's just really uncomfortable and weird. I'm sure you ran into some people that are like that. So that's a few examples on how you know people are actually possessed, or they're allowing a favorite. Some of them will have a favorite demon they like to constantly feed on a regular basis and allowed to live off them, and a lot of them aren't even mindful of it. These are characteristics of people who are doing that. And obviously there's obvious reasons and obvious things that you would know if they're being possessed or having demons or a demon feed off them on a regular basis, is if they constantly speak to you and say they feel troubled by spirits. They constantly tell you they feel like there's something following them around. They feel like they're being haunted. They feel like there's a shadow in the corner of their eye constantly all the time, and they feel like they're constantly paranoid. People who report these kind of sightings on a regular basis are obviously, and they're scared constantly. These are people who are usually have a demon living off of them. If they're pretty obviously open about it, they're telling you, hey, I have something following me around. And to the extreme, Hollywood to extreme, they're constantly saying profanities. They do weird things like make random animal noises. You see their head spin around in circles. I mean, that's pretty obvious Hollywood things, you can't really deny that. If somebody actually crazy, they're speaking in another language that they don't know, and they're speaking it. You feel like you could hear three voices coming out of their voice at the same time. Those are pretty obvious things. I don't think you need to watch to explain to you this person's being possessed. It's pretty obvious, if they have something possessing them. Here are some other things that to show that they're being possessed. That's not as obvious. If they're constantly uncomfortable, A person who's constantly moving around a lot and they can't be comfortable because they feel like there's something constantly touching them all the time is another sign that someone is being possessed. There's a spirit that's near them that's probably poking at them, prying them, messing with them constantly, tickling them, touching them, whatever it is. And either you or you've seen somebody else because they just can't get comfortable. That's another sign somebody's being harassed by a demon. Another sign is, this is one of the major things, is identity issues. I'm sure you met somebody who has identity issue, which is a person who you don't know what to expect when you see them. Or they change up a lot, as in one day they'll be talking a type of way or even carrying their self a type of way. And then the next day they act like they're like a completely different person, or they act very confused, like they don't know how to act. They don't know to be or how to talk, which is normal only up to an extent. Usually if you're around strangers, it's normal to not know how to act when you're around strangers. That's not what I mean. What I mean is like their personality constantly changes up. Like they'll act one way and then the next day you see them, they're acting like a completely different person and you don't know what to get. This is an identity issue, and people who have identity issues, a lot of times they have these is because they're trying to attach to spirits outside of them and they haven't really gotten tuned with their own spirit, their own ori, their own soul. Therefore, they'll try to grab on spirits that are living off them and attached to them. And that's why you'll run into people who have identity issues, who one day they're acting this way, the next day they're acting like that, or they'll even switch up. Like one hour they're acting one way and then later on that night they're acting completely different, or they're acting completely one way with you and then you bring them to somebody else and they totally even like change their accent or they completely change their whole entire personality and you're just like, who the hell are you? These are people who actually are not their self, and they're trying to reflect energies of beings that are attached to them, that they're around. And a lot of times these people aren't even realizing that they're doing it. And some of these personalities can actually be personalities of beings that are around them. And these are the little that you're seeing through these people on why they keep changing up their personalities and the way they talk and who they are on different times of the day and stuff like that. So hold on, something popped up on my thing. So this is another red flag, and you're dealing with somebody who has a lot of demons attached to them. Weird things like, these are some obvious things too. People who are constantly screaming all the time. So screaming actually invokes a lot of and I mean like constantly yelling and screaming at people or finding reasons to constantly yell and scream at people is actually a way to call on demons and a way to get them to live and eat off that energy. So a person who's constantly yelling all the time and screaming profanities, cussing, like constantly angry all the time, these people have a lot of demons living off of them. And they don't even realize that the screaming and yelling and cursing and name calling really, really loudly is actually tapping into the non-physical realm to call those beings who love that energy towards them. And the more somebody constantly yells and screams profanities, the more they feed off of them. Therefore, the more they are soaking in these beings' energy to make them want to scream and yell profanities even more. Because that beings like do it more, do it more, do it more, to almost to the point it feels good for them to behave this way. I'm sure a lot of you have been to that place to where you feel like you want to yell and scream at somebody. We've all been there. We all know somebody. We've all been there to where I'm sure you got to the point to where it almost feels good to scream and yell, which is only good up to an extent. If we need healing and we're upset, we have every right to be upset about certain things that happen to us. And it's okay to yell and scream about it. But if we're doing it in a way to where it's unserving and we're doing it because we're attacking other people and feeding demons to keep coming to us, and to where we keep repeating the habit over and over and over again till we can't stop screaming and yelling, then we know we're feeding demons. So everything in moderation, okay? I just want you to let you know we all have demons. It's completely normal. This is part of the human experience. But we need to understand the balance of being able to balance all concepts of this, okay? Let me see some other signs. Let me see. People, it's normal for us to talk to ourselves. I mean, I do it all the time, and we talk to our pets. It's normal. But if you see somebody who's constantly looking like they're talking to something, which is different if you're dealing with a spiritual person, because I speak to spirit all the time. But if it's you're dealing with somebody who's constantly talking and blaming a being, let's say they break something and they say, oh, so and so did it, and like, you know, they're dead serious that they really mean that so and so did it, and they're talking about a spirit. A person who is constantly talking to themselves or talking that's there and blaming things constantly on another being, and even if they don't know which being it is that they're constantly doing that, that's obviously a person who has a demon attached to them, and they're feeding it and with their actions and their excuses and stuff like that. So that being said, what do you do? I know a lot of you are like, okay, there's demons everywhere, now what do you do? If it's really to the extreme and someone's head spinning around in circles and are walking on the walls upside down, you know, obviously, if you are not a priest or a priestess, you need to get somebody involved. Do not try to go Google things, and do not try to go look into a book and read into it and try to do it yourself, because the chances of you being successful at trying to banish a being out of somebody's home or out of their body is very slim to none if you do not have the ashe or power or willingness or purpose to be able to. So please, if you meet somebody who is doing crazy things like cutting themselves and drawing weird things on the wall and speaking really funny to the extreme, I'm talking about Hollywood extreme, please contact somebody. If you do not know somebody to contact me. I'm not saying I'm the one who's going to go banish this demon. Maybe it is my purpose, maybe it's not. But if it is not my purpose to, I am sure I could find somebody or some people who could help assist. So if we're not going to the extreme, I'm actually going to give you guys a technique on how you could help with your own demons. So one is that we think demons are bad, and in actuality, they're not as bad as you think they are. They're here to teach us a lesson and help teach us how to be stronger and actually be aware of ourself. So if you feel like you have some demons that are harassing you, whether it's to the extreme or to just like the basic things like lust, gluttony, pride, stuff like that, and you need some help with it, learning your triggers is the best way to fight off your demons. And when I say triggers, I mean triggers are moments that your emotions reach a peak and you are unable to control them. As in, let's say, for example, this used to be a trigger for me, and it's not anymore. So I'm going to give you an example of a trigger. A trigger used to be slamming cabinets for me. And the reason why slamming cabinets was a trigger for me when I was younger, I've learned to deal with this, and I've done a lot of shadow work on myself, is because my mother used to come home angry, and she was very abusive to me. And I knew she was going to do something abusive because she would come home from work and she would slam cabinets really loud. So when I got older as an adult, if I was ever, so the number one triggers that usually come the most are when you're with somebody in a relationship, as in a romantic relationship. A lot of the triggers will come out then. So this is what I realized, and this is an example of a trigger, is being mindful of things that make you emotionally respond for reasons that seems accurate to you, but not so accurate to the other person or other people. So what used to happen with me is if I heard a lot of cabinets slamming or a cabinet slam, I would suppose the person who did it was angry at me or upset with me. So I would start to get really anxious, and I would be like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Or I would trigger, and I would either I would start an argument and be like, well, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, and I would suppose they're angry or upset at me. So I would constantly defend myself, or get really nervous and sad or upset or depressed or something, because I would get scared and think that I'm going to get abused. It would be like an automatic response. So this is an example of a trigger. It could be something like maybe somebody says something to you that reminds you of something that happened with an ex of yours, or maybe a parent in your childhood, of something that your parent says. Therefore, if somebody says something similar, it triggers you and makes you really angry, makes you really upset. And it doesn't necessarily always have to make you emotionally lash out. Triggers can actually be things that can actually make you go inward, as in shut down, or even go to abusing yourself, as in not wanting to communicate, all of a sudden wanting to shut yourself out, like wanting to be alone all of a sudden, or even things like wanting to drink or over drink, or wanting to go outside to smoke a cigarette, or want to all of a sudden want to smoke weed or do drugs, or any kind of habit like that, is also a trigger. Those are examples of triggers. So know that it isn't always an emotional lashing out. It could be also doing something that's inward. That could be just you, like feeling really quiet all of a sudden, or some kind of drug abuse, or wanting to drink, or stuff like that. So these are examples of triggers. So I'm going to give you a technique that's going to help you with being mindful of these triggers. So when these triggers happen, that's when demons, what you would call demons, feed off of. It is the energy that you respond with due to a trigger. So you want to yell, scream, drink, get depressed. Those are triggers, and those are the energies that demons will, that's when you attract demons into your life. And when you get too comfortable in this energy, that's when you end up having to deal with a lot of demons. So I'm going to give you a technique really quick, which is called shadow work. I've made a few videos on this, but I haven't made any videos on this for it's been a few years. So I'm going to make another video, and I'm not going to do any shadow work on anyone today, but I'm just going to give you some advice and tips on how to do shadow work on yourself. So you can do is go into a meditative state, or you could simply just ask yourself these questions. So if you would like to put yourself into a meditative state, what you would do is you would actually ask yourself, when was the last time you had a trigger? And it's best to help yourself relax, like make sure you're not going to be distracted, because you have to actually allow yourself to be with yourself. Give yourself permission to really just be with yourself, and allow yourself to remember, and allow yourself to think. So a lot of times the reason why triggers keep happening to us is because we're not allowing ourselves to go back to that moment and remember and really process the information. So your shadow self is a part of you who is saying, hey, remember me, recognize me, know me. And that's why we go, we freak out, we trigger, and we do very self-sabotaging things. Or relationship sabotaging, not only in our loving relationship or romantic, but also our friends, family, job, stuff like that. So our shadow self is that part of ourself who likes to sabotage things in our life that we are like, oh, everything's perfect. And all of a sudden our shadow self comes out and fucks it all up. So this is how we work on that shadow self, is allowing ourselves to know and recognize and be with that self, so that part of yourself doesn't lash out at times that it doesn't need to lash out and try to sabotage your life. Because it's just you wanting to know you. That's basically what it is. It's part of you. So this is what you do is, number one thing is you're going to ask yourself is, why did I trigger? You have to practice mindfulness. If you catch yourself trigger, now that you know what a trigger is, I just explained it. A lot of people don't even know what a trigger is. So now that you know what a trigger is, the next time you trigger, you need to tell yourself to pause and actually ask yourself, why did I trigger? And it's a lot of not criticism. Please do not criticize you. Do not criticize yourself, because what it's going to do is actually make it worse and make your triggers worse. And a lot of times when we question, why did I do that? We tend to criticize ourselves, and it makes us trigger more. So when you pause and ask yourself, why did I trigger? You're going to come at it from a perspective of non-judgment, as in you're going to be simply an observer. I speak on being the observer a lot in my videos, a lot of my meditation videos, and I did that in my last video I made on Ori work, of being the observer of ourselves. It's basically what that means, is to be able to back up and watch ourselves from a perspective as if you're like an alien studying the human you. Like you're going to back up and be like, oh, she's doing this or he's doing that. Just observing and studying and not judging yourself. So that's basically what you're going to do. You're going to come from an observing perspective, and you're going to just simply ask, what did I trigger? And you're not going to ask in the way you're asking for that particular moment. You're going to ask yourself, what about this moment reminded me of another moment I had? That's what you're going to ask yourself. And the best way to do that is you're going to have to remove yourself from the situation. If you're dealing with a clingy, toxic person, I would suggest leaving the house. If you're with a very understanding person, you're going to simply tell the person, hey, I am triggering and I need some time to myself so I could think about this and so I could come back and be able to have a more understanding, less emotional conversation with you. And if the person is not a toxic person, they will allow you to walk away and have time to yourself, for you to be able to go to the other room and just question yourself for a moment. If you're with a person who is not so understanding, I would suggest to leave the house. If they freak out because they have demons that want to live off you and them, let them go. Be understanding that they just have demons that are trying to live off you and feed off you. Leave the house and go for a drive, or go somewhere where you know you're going to be safe and where you're going to have some peace, whether it's your family, other family member, or it's a friend, or whatever. Walmart, I don't care wherever you need to go, that's going to give you some peace, wherever it is, just go. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, when was the last time I felt exactly like this moment? And the number one mistake people make when they do that is they try to create a scenario and be like, oh, I know when it was. Stop doing that, because your shadow self is a part of yourself that you are not aware of at all. And every single time I do a professional shadow work session on somebody, which is when I actually do when I put people into a meditative state, it's always, and I mean 100% always, a moment that people are not aware of. And that is why it's called your shadow self. It is your unknown self. It is the part of you that is in the dark, as in you don't know why you're triggering. So when you ask yourself, why did I respond that way? Why did I react that way? Instead of trying to really find the reason, this is why you need to be relaxed and in a away from noise, is learn how to put yourself into a meditative state, as in learn how to be in silence. Because you want the answer to be given to you, not for you to find the answer. What I mean is, you're going to relax and you're going to ask the simple question of, when was the last time I felt exactly like this moment when I triggered? And you're going to silence your mind, which means you're going to focus your attention on your breathing, which means you're not going to try to create the answer. You're not going to try to answer it yourself. You're going to allow spirit, which is your higher self, give you the answer. So focus your attention on your breathing. You could either do something like, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, or just focus your attention on the noise of the air going into your nose and out in your nose and out your mouth. Or you could you could even count in like 1, 2, 3, hold 1, 2, 3, out 1, 2, 3. Whatever you need to do to clear your mind to where you're not trying to create the answer for the question you just. When you catch yourself wandering and you're catching yourself trying to create the answer, or your mind wandering to what just happened, maybe you're angry about what happened, or maybe you start wondering about, oh, I need to wash the dishes. When you catch yourself wandering, don't judge. You're simply going to be like, oh, I'm thinking about something else. And then you're just going to push it away like, oh, it's just a random thought. It's okay for your mind to think. That's what your mind is for. If your brain wasn't thinking, you would be dead. So don't judge the thought. You're going to just allow it to just flow by. And keep doing everything you can to calm your mind. Focus on your breathing. Focus on numbers. The best way to clear it is to focus on breathing and to focus on numbers. So count your breaths, or just pay attention to the inflow and the outflow of your breathing. and you're going to basically tell spirit, show me or tell me, when was the last time I felt like this? And then when the answer comes to you, you're going to have an epiphany like, holy crap. And a majority of the time, you know that's the real answer when you feel like you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that time. That's when you know you really got the answer. When you honestly were like, holy crap, I can't believe this is still bothering me. When you have that feeling, that's when you know you really achieved on allowing that shadow self to come through and answer for you, or your higher self to allow the answer to come through in regards to your shadow self. So that's what you're going to do, is you're going to do that. And then once you get that answer, this is called inner child work, is majority of the time you're going to end up remembering something that happened to you a long time ago when you were with a child. When you were a child. Majority of our shadow self is from childhood. If it is not from your childhood, a lot of times it could be from exes that might have abused you or have treated you a type of way in the past. If that's the case, if your memory went to a most previous relationship, when you ask, when was the last time I felt like this? And it went to a previous relationship, you're going to simply remember that moment and be like, oh, damn, that person did the same shit to me. And now it's just reminding me of that shit. Now you're mindful. Now this is teaching you mindfulness and teaching you, hey, I triggered because it reminded me of a moment that happened to me with a previous person I was with. And this is when you need to ask yourself, are my reactions to this moment accurate, or is it not? And sometimes your reactions aren't accurate. Sometimes you really got to put yourself in other person's shoes. Like, is this person really recreating a moment that I had, or is it in my head? And sometimes it is in your head, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the person is treating you just like a previous person you were with, and then that's when you realize you were dating the same exact spirit with a different face. And this is when mindfulness really needs to come in. Now, this is when you really need to do a lot of self-evaluation. If your memory goes to a previous ex and it ends up being true that you were just dating the same exact person with a different face, this is when a lot of healing has to come in, and we need to really evaluate ourselves, like, why are we repeating the same thing over and over again? And then that's another story. But other than that, if you go back to a childhood memory and that's why you triggered, this is when we do some inner child work. So if your mind went to an ex that was during adulthood, you're going to simply be like, oh shit, I'm dating the same person. You're going to simply ask yourself, when was the first time I've ever felt this exact emotion, this exact energy? And then you're going to do the same technique that I told you earlier, where you're going to silence your mind, focus on your breathing, or focus on numbers. And you're going to just ask yourself, or ask spirit, when was the first time I've ever felt this way? So when you finally have that revealed to you, when you have that, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still remembering that, or this is still affecting me moment, you're going to do inner child work. So inner child work basically means you're going to revisit a moment that happened to you in childhood. So when you suddenly realize what moment triggered you from childhood, you're actually going to close your eyes and you're going to remember the moment, and you're actually going to speak to that child version of yourself. And this is what inner child work is instead of trying, the reason why we trigger a lot is because we are avoiding a memory, and what you resist persists. So our shadow self is our shadow self saying, this part of me needs to be nourished, it needs to be loved, and it needs attention. So the more you run from these moments in your life that could be very hurtful, maybe you got raped, maybe you got beat. These are pretty, very, very harsh moments, but it haunts us more when we avoid it. So inner child work is basically when you allow yourself to go to that exact moment, but you're going to do the same thing that you've been doing, and you're going to go to that moment as if you are the observer. So you're not going to judge, you're not going to you're not going to imagine you're in that body. You're going to simply back up and you're going to watch it like you're watching a screen on a television. And you're going to act as watching the past. So a lot of times when we have really tragic moments, when we remember it as if we are in the moment. So this is what you're going to do, and this is actually going to help you recollaborate your brain to where you're going to allow yourself to go into the past, and you're going to watch it from second person. As in, you're going to take the scene and you're going to push it forward, and you're going to back up and watch it as if you're watching yourself on a screen in reality. So you're going to push pause. During this moment, you're actually going to push pause within your mind's eye. That means in your head. So it's good to keep your eyes closed and be able to be with yourself and really focus on this. And you're going to go back and you're going to watch yourself on the screen, and then you're going to push pause on the screen at that traumatic moment. And you're going to walk into the screen and you're going to have a conversation with the child you. What this means is, if you had somebody to be able to go back during that time and push pause and be able to give you guidance at that exact moment, you're going to give yourself that. So you're going to go to that moment, push pause, speak to that child at that time. You're going to pull that child to the side, and you're going to say whatever it is that you wish that child had, whatever guidance that child needed at that time, you're going to give that child, as in you, that guidance at that time. What you're doing is you're being your own guardian angel. And what this actually does, it recollaborates your brain and helps you remember it from a different perspective. And it actually helps you heal a lot because you're nurturing that side of yourself that keeps screaming and lashing out during moments that remind you of those moments. So this is called inner child work, and this actually helps a lot with your triggers. If you are unable to do this, and this sounds really difficult for you to do, and it's hard for you to still your mind, I do shadow work. I am a guided meditation instructor, and I will put you into a meditative state. And you can't come here to do it. I don't have a setup for it, but we can do it over video chat, which basically means you would have to set an appointment with me, and you would have to go somewhere where you're not going to be bothered by anybody. I do have a couple videos on YouTube of me doing shadow work. If you would like to know how good my work is and what it would be like, I will tag a video with this video so you know prior to doing it what it would be like. I am offering shadow work for this. I'll do a special for you. If you're watching this and you're getting this from this video, I'll do a special for you for $65. It takes about an hour to do, maybe a little bit more. It depends on how willing or unwilling your shadow self is to open up to me. If you are interested, go ahead and shoot me a message and let me know. I will do some shadow work on you, or you can try to do the shadow work on yourself. It's completely up to you. But if you do shadow work on yourself and it ends up being successful, please leave a comment on this video or shoot me a message and let me know your story. I would love to know your story and how successful you were at it. So that's my advice on shadow work. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me a message or just leave a comment of whoever's watching this right now, and I'll let you know. So another thing that you could work, I'm going to get into some occult knowledge here really quick. So occult knowledge, please do not twist up the word cult with occult knowledge. So occult knowledge basically is secret spiritual knowledge. So here is just some basic occult knowledge that you could do if you like to feed spirits and feed beings and deities and stuff like that. You could actually feed your demons. And I know it sounds really, really weird, but trust me, it works. I've had a friend do it who felt like she was being taunted by spirits that was left in her home from a previous person who was schizophrenic, who rented one of her rooms out. And I told her this technique, and it actually did work. So, and I learned this from my spouse, and it is something that works. It's the same thing. If you've been following me for a while, I do share a lot of videos on how to feed beings and offer them food. You could actually do the exact same thing with demons. So if you feel like you're in it, and it's and it's not even just demons. If you feel like you're just being haunted by anything, if you feel like you have a ghost or kind of a spirit in your home, or one that's following you around and is really bothering you, and you feel like it's more disturbing you than giving you peace, and you want it to go somewhere else and stop feeding you, you're simply going to offer this being food. So you're giving it food and you're giving it something to eat, therefore it's not going to eat off you. So you do not want to do this in your home. What you would do is you would offer it 1, water, 2, a cigar, 3, alcohol, and 4, food. And the more effort you put into the food, the more outcome you're going to put into it. So remember, the energy of food is what the demon or any being eats off of. Therefore, if you want your demon to sweeten up a little bit, you're going to offer it sweet food, offer it candy. Number one thing to offer demons you can never go wrong is giving them candy, giving them honey, giving them anything that's sweet, cereal, stuff like that, you know. Any food, bake a cake, make some cupcakes for it. And what you're doing is you're actually showing these demons, these spirits or ghosts that are around you or live in your home, respect. So by doing this, you're actually what you're doing is you're moving the energy another direction. So instead of them eating off of your energy and harassing you, you're basically going to please these spirits by saying, hey, stop eating off my energy, eat off this. And make sure you always have all those offers. Make sure you always have the cigar, the alcohol, and the water, because you want to cool them off. So always give them water. And I would suggest to give them something sweet, like some kind of cake, cupcakes, candy, and stuff like that. The more you offer, the more you're feeding them, okay? So just be mindful of that. Do not feed them in your home, because what you're doing is probably going to be like a roach or an ant to go tell all their friends to come over. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to take it and you want to put it outside, either outside in your yard, or you're going to put it outside farther away, even in somewhere that's a little closer. The reason why is because you want to communicate with them, okay? So if you feel like your home is being haunted, you feel like you're being haunted by something, or you feel like you have demons, or your home has demons, you're going to simply speak to them and say, if you're not sure what their names are, you could just say, hey, spirit, I feel your presence. I have food for you. I have drink for you. And I hope this pleases you. I ask you if you could please just not harass me, but I would like to please you, and I have made this food for you, And you basically would speak to this being who is in your home or that's following you around, and you would go out to the yard or a wooded area that's close to your home, not too far. The reason why I wouldn't say go too far is because if you're not a priest or priestess, you don't even know if they're getting the message. So if you just pop up in the woods with some food, the being in your home isn't going to receive the message, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to say this for people who don't really and know exactly how to communicate to the other side. So if you have one that's in your home, it's best to just take it out to the yard, the farthest area in your yard, or maybe right outside your yard, or maybe even across the street of your house, and give them a designated area that you're going to constantly feed them, so they know where to go to eat on a regular basis. So no, this is not a one-way fix-all. So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you just feed them one time, they're going to be away from you forever. Please take accountability for your energy. So if you have a home where you're constantly smoking, you're constantly drinking alcohol, you're constantly fighting all the time, your home is messy all the time, you have toxic people coming over your house all the time, don't think you feeding a demon one time is going to fix it all. It could fix it for a night. It might fix it for a day or two. If you've made him a whole lot of food, it might even fix it for a week. If you bring him a whole bunch of alcohol and a whole bunch of cigarettes or a whole bunch of cigars and a whole bunch of food, it might even keep him away for a week, But if you constantly have bad habits all the time, don't try to cheat spirit and think if you just feed him outside all the time, it's going to fix the problem, because you could actually make it worse. Now you have spirits not only feeding off you, now you're giving them offers all the time, and now you're attracting them even more, okay? So just be mindful of that. What it does is kind of gives you a break. So let's just say you have a lot of bad habits and you need some healing and you don't know where to start, you know? This is a good thing to do if you just need a break that night. If you feel like, I just feel like there's something that's following me constantly, I need a break, it's making me insane. Feed him some food and offer it outside so you have a break that night, you know? So you could have the space in the room to be able to heal and some calmness just for a moment. It'll work for you. But don't think it's going to fix all your problems, okay? It's just be mindful of, you are feeding a being, and if you do it too much and you're not fixing your personal problems in your life, you could actually end up doing the opposite of what you're trying to do. If you have any questions and you're not sure what to do, please shoot me a message, because this is occult work, okay? So if you're scared of doing it, go ahead and just message me and I'll give you some more information, or I'll send somebody to you who is a little more experienced with that kind of stuff, okay? So another advice to get rid of demons is the obvious, is get some guidance, get some healing, meditate, do yoga, stay active, and get rid of bad habits. Practice good character. Number one, practice good character. Be a good person. The more of a liar you are, and the more of a mean person, more of an abusive person you are, the more demons you're going to feed. So we have to take accountability for our actions and stop acting like we're victims to demons. And a lot of people try to blame demons on everything. Oh, well, everything's happening in my life because it's Satan, or because it's the devil, or because it's demon. Take accountability. Number one thing, take accountability for your life. You are a victim of yourself. And every single thing that you ever go through is considered a soul contract. Therefore, all the problems you ever came across your whole entire life, even from childhood, is a soul contract that you agreed to prior to coming to this planet. You have free will, and if you want to change that contract, you have the free will to. It is all up to you. If you do not want to be harassed by demons, it is all up to you. Everything is up to you. It is your soul. It is your Ori. It is your contract. So if you would like more information on your soul contract or what you're here to do, feel free to message me. I'll send you a priest who could do a reading on you and let you know exactly what you are supposed to be doing. Number one way you know you are off track of your high destiny, as in the reason why you came here, your higher purpose, is being stalked or harassed by demons. That's the number one sign that you're not on the right track of your soul agreement of prior to coming here, and what you decided that you wanted to do prior to coming to this planet, into the body that you're in, into the life that you're in. If you're getting off track of that, then you're going to have a lot more demons harassing you, and a lot more moments and sicknesses and people that are going to take you away from that mission, take you away from your soul's higher purpose. So just know that if you are being harassed by demons, the more you have, the more farther away from your higher purpose you are. So if you would like to know your higher purpose, just shoot me a message and I will forward a priest to you, and you could get a reading done to find out what your higher purpose is, to help you get on the straight path to your higher purpose. Just know there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Doesn't matter how much you feel you fucked up in life, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And there's always a way to get you back on that track of which way you're supposed to be going. So that being said, another way is working with Orishas. Because I am bringing up Orishas right now, I want to get into the subject of not confusing or mixing up warrior Orishas with demons. If you are indoctrinated still, you will confuse demons with warrior Orishas. So I'm going to give you some names real quick. I made some videos on these beings. I'm going to give you some names real quick of warrior Orishas. Warrior Orishas, here are some basics, is Eshu, Ogun, Ochosi, Shango, Pampa, Jira, Loa spirits like the Barons, Gede. Here are some Kemetic ones, Sobek, Sekhmet, Huti, Haru, or in other words, Horus. These are names of warrior spirits that are actually here to help protect you, help you have a strong willpower, or even the fire in us to be able to accomplish our goals and to be able to stick up for ourselves and stick up for our rights. A lot of times if you're indoctrinated, people who are indoctrinated will demonize this energy as in, oh no, you power, that means you're toxic, or toxic masculinity, and blah blah blah. That's indoctrination is basically what that is. So let's not confuse warrior orishas or lower or warrior spirit or warrior netters with demons. Okay, they are not the same. And the more you try to demonize warrior spirits who are here to protect you from energies that don't serve you, the more you are going to get attacked by energies that do not serve you. Because warrior spirits are here to protect you and help you fight off those energies so you don't have to anymore. So you can live the straight path. So Orisha work is another step to take if you want to get rid of demons in your life or that which does not serve you, is working with orishas and working with spirit and talking to the other side and saying, hey, I'm tired of fighting these demons all the time. Can you help fight them for me? And that's what warrior spirits are. So please do not mix up demons with warrior spirits. They're not the same. Warrior spirits are here to protect you or punish you if you're being a bad person. So please know the difference and please take accountability. If you're being a bad person, take accountability if you get punished for it, okay? So a lot of times these demons are actually working. Some of these demons are working for you, because a lot of times when people say, oh, karma is going to get you, that's actually voodoo. So when you say karma is going to get you, as in people that you feel are enemies, you're practicing voodoo. So just be mindful of that. So sometimes people, you could actually cause those demons to attack other people because you wished it amongst other people. So just be mindful of that. Not saying you have to completely stop, because we say it in my practice all the time, that you're going to get your karma and blah, blah, blah. But just take ownership of when you say certain things like that, you're actually throwing energies at people. So here are some other beings that people confuse as demons if you're indoctrinated, because they look scary when you see images of them. Osiris, Anpu, or in other words, Anubis, are actually netters that are faces or associated with the underworld or associated with dark matter or doorkeepers or the crossroads. They are not demons. They're actually very, very lightful filled beings who help the dead, or who do walk on all sides of the universe, especially Asar and Sikr and Pu. So this is why you need to be careful. Demons that you don't understand, because, for example, Anpu or Anubis is known as a doorkeeper, and he actually is known to know your sicknesses and where it comes from. He weighs your heart, or he works very close with Ma'at. He weighs your heart with the feather of Ma'at, and all your organs. He is known to be associated with the priesthood in Kemet, of who you would see right when you die, basically when they take the body parts out of your body, and they could see the sickness in your body, because basically sickness, like I said earlier, dis-ease causes disease. Therefore, if you have a diseased body, Anpu can see it. Not only can Anpu see it, he can also help heal you and help you be mindful of it. So he also is a doorkeeper. Therefore, he opens and closes doors, which means if you demonize doorkeepers, doors will close on you. As in, if you want to have a good relationship, a good job, money, health, if you demonize doorkeepers, those doors will close on you. So please be mindful of trying to demonize everything that doesn't look like a winged angel in the European concept, because everything isn't a demon, okay? So just know the difference between what really is one and what is not. Other examples of beings that people like to demonize due to indoctrination is death spirits. We all have to die at some point. This is the law of the physical realm. Therefore, in every single religion and every single belief system, there is a being known to walk you from the physical realm to the non-physical realm when it comes your time. Therefore, we shouldn't demonize these beings, because they're just here doing their job. Here are some names of the beings that do their job: is Iku, Santa Mirorte, I probably botched her name, and Caviera. These are beings who are associated with skeleton faces, and they are known to guide you from one aspect to the next. Death is simply transformation. It is just transforming from one physical element to a non-physical element. It is no different than water becoming ice, water becoming steam. It is the same thing. You're still your soul. You're still you. You still have your energy. You are just transforming from one form to the next. Okay, so don't demonize every being you see with a skeleton face. So before I move on, because I am talking about demons, let's get into the concept of demonology. And I know the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because I know a lot of people are going to find this on YouTube, and everybody watching this, whoever finds this video, is probably going to be like, well, why aren't you talking about demonology? So let's talk about demonology. The occult of demonology. I'm not talking about the basics of what I said earlier, of what it is. Basically, what that is are people who feed demons on purpose to have them work for them. So I've made videos on how to feed the Netaru and how to feed not only light beings, but how to feed warrior spirit, doorkeepers, and stuff like that. And basically what it is, it's trading the energy of food to get something out of it. So, for example, you can feed us or Isis some fruit and ask her for healing. Or Hetaru, I've done this before where I've asked Hetaru, or if you practice Yoruba practice, Hetaru is also known as Oshun in Yoruba, or also Hathor. Hetaru is a being I am very, very close to because Oshun is at my feet. So when I speak to Hetaru, her message is coming very clear. So I asked her for some healing, as in I had a lot of resentment towards the New Age spiritual movement, and I needed it to be healed. So I offered Hetaru some fruits. I think it was melons. I offered her. She loves melons. The next day, I felt like the concept of New Ageism didn't bother me anymore. And it was bothering me for so long. I was so bitter about it and angry about it. And no matter what I told myself, whatever I did, no matter how many times I meditated, I just could not get over my bitterness towards the New Age movement. And I'm not going to get too into that reasoning right now. I have another video on it, but I just needed some healing. So this is an example of giving food to demons and getting healing from them. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's used in the same concept of people who actually really practice demonology. Basically what that is people who feed demons and ask them to do things for you. Now, sorry, I video tripped for a second. Something popped up on my phone. So I am not going to say anything about if you should or shouldn't do this because I understand the concept of not suppressing anybody. So it is a practice that I feel like I will respect it just like I respect any other. I've actually been learning how to even respect the Christian faith, even though for the longest time I made all these posts of how much I was so resentful towards them. But since I got initiated, I'm starting to learn, with Obatala's help, of course, or in other words, Asar or Osiris, help, of having a much higher understanding of people's state of minds and why they are where they are, and learning to respect everyone's beliefs and stuff. As long as you just stay on your own path, you know what I'm saying? We in this practice, we keep telling each other to keep your eyes on your own mat. Stop worrying about what other people are doing. Just mind your business. Find your own happiness. Therefore, that goes with every religion out there, every belief. If people want to feed demons and ask them to do things for them, then to each their own. It doesn't mean you have to be involved if you don't like it. That being said, if you are watching this and you want to know about it, I'm going to give you a warning. They are not as forgiving as Orishas and the Netaru. They are known to be a lot even worse than hot beings. Though I've mentioned a lot of my videos of cool beings and hot beings. Red beings are known to be very unforgiving. Just know that if you decide to do it and ask a demon to do favors for you, they're very unforgiving, and they will attach to you, and they will cause issues in your life, as in cause depression, anger problems, because the more you work with any being, the more you soak up their energy. Therefore, the more you work with Aset, the more enlightened and lighter you will feel. The more you work with Obatala or All-Star, the more cool-headed and enlightened you will feel. The more you work with Ogun, the more warrior and the more aggressive you will feel. So the more you work with demons, the more depressed and schizophrenia and other issues and mental illnesses you will have due to trying to feed them and ask them to do favors for you. Yes, they will do favors for you. Just a warning to know that if you work with them, you will soak up their energy, okay? So if you really want to get into the practice, there are other beings you can work with that will work for you and do favors for you to where you don't have to soak up that kind of energy, okay? So just be mindful of what you work with and be careful, not saying to not do it. It is not my place to. Maybe it's your purpose to. I don't know. We don't know unless we divine out, okay? So just letting you know, for anybody who is watching this, a little warning what it really is and what to expect from it. That being said, I'm about to flip this whole entire video upside down because, let's let you know, there is no such thing as demons. I know you're watching this and you're like, dude, you just made a whole entire video about it. Let's talk about the version of Eshu. I made a video on Eshu Alegba. So Eshu is known to be a trickster. Eshu is the deity of transformation. He is known to be the crossroad deity, and he is basically the being who causes confusion or clarity. Some people call Eshu the devil. I call him a crossroad deity. And in Yoruba, we learn to respect Eshu. And the more you respect Eshu, the more doors open for you. And the reason why you have a lot of confusion in your life is because you are not appeasing Eshu. So yes, I just totally flipped this video another angle that all these demons I was just talking about actually don't really exist. It is all an agreement that you have because Eshu is just confusing you and making you think they exist when they really don't. Because you are a higher self and you are actually connected to everything, as in connected to the whole entire universe, which consists of all enlightenment and all darkness. Therefore, all the confusion that you have that you feel like you shouldn't have or should have or whatever is all a delusion and an illusion. It's an illusion to think that everything is separate. It's an illusion to think that the physical realm is separate from the non-physical realm. Therefore, this whole entire conversation we just had is an illusion. Therefore, you thinking you have demons is an illusion. Think about that. So, number one being you want to appease is Eshu. The less confusion you will have, the more you have a higher understanding of the concept of Eshu or the concept of Set. So Set is a Kemetic deity that some people like to call the devil. So I made a video explaining how Set is not the devil and how Set actually helps Ra exist. I will tag the video with this video so you can have a better understanding explanation of what that means. So you tend to suffer from less confusion and less so-called demons, false demons that we believe in, when you have a much higher understanding of how the universe works. So the idea of demons is actually from you being confused and misunderstanding of how the universe really works. So Set is basically, okay, so let's just say the universe is made of vibration, okay? So Ra is the light. You know, I'm sure you heard it in the Bible. Then there was light, who was Ra, the sun netter of the Kemetic pantheon, or the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Set helps Ra exist. What I mean by that is, if you were to hit a singing bowl, ding, let's just say that is a creation of the universe, of the vibration of the universe to exist. And the bowl is Ra, for example, okay? So Ra is that light and vibration that helps the universe exist. Set is the being that helps keep hitting the bowl. Because if you hit the bowl only one time, a singing bowl, eventually it'll ding a long time, but it will eventually fade away. How can something keep existing if nothing is constantly hitting that vibration? Therefore, Set is the being that keeps hitting that vibration, because without Set we wouldn't exist. Without friction and lessons, demons, Eshu, Alegba, transformation, none of this would exist. We would all dissipate and disappear back to nothingness. So this is why we need to learn to appreciate and understand and have a much higher understanding of what we see as chaos, illusion, war, demons, and all that kind of stuff, because know that war is Ogun and is all needed somehow, some way. And if you don't like the life that you're living, if you do not like the reality that you are living on this planet, you need to ask yourself, why did your soul decide to reincarnate or carnate here in the first place? You are here to learn a lesson, and the lesson needs to be learned for you to ascend. Therefore, this whole conversation about demons is an illusion of misunderstanding the higher concept of how the universe works in the first place. Because all these things we call imbalances and confusion is the work of Eshu Alegba in the work of Set, and war is the work of Ogun. So when we learn to have a much higher understanding and respect for these energies and these deities, where we learn to have these energies work for us instead of against us, that's when we learn to ascend. Because you cannot ascend if you don't have respect for everything. This is what it means to be an Astar-like being. If you want to ascend to be an Astar-like being, it basically means to be able to touch everything without breaking apart. So breaking apart means you actually think one aspect of the universe is better than the other. That is an illusion of division. That is the illusion or the story of Alsar or Obatala breaking into bits and pieces. This is an illusion that all of it needs to exist, and all of it is needed, and all of it is worthy. So that being said, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I have some more love and wisdom to share with you. And before I go, I want to just leave you with one thought before I end this video. In ancient Greek, the word demon or daemon actually means higher self. If you look up the etymology of the word daemon on Google, it'll say in Greek that it means higher self. So that being said, marinate, meditate, whatever you got to do on that, on why that word means higher self. Whatever conclusion that you come up with, please shoot me a comment or a message and let me know how deep the message got to you if you meditate on it. I hope everybody is having an enlightened day. And before I go, just to let you know, I do aura readings. And when I do an aura reading, I can actually help you be more aware of what your balances are and what your imbalances are. And I could give you some advice on how to work on those imbalances so you can live a more wholesome life. And I could also do Obi readings. What that means is I communicate with the crossroad deities to ask any questions about outcomes. If you have anything happen in your life and you need to have any questions, and you would like to ask questions to the crossroad deities on outcomes that you're wondering about, what will happen, or if you're at a fork in the road and you're wondering which way to go, this way or that way, or the outcome of each way if you were to make either choice, feel free to shoot me a message and let me know, and I will do an aura reading for you. I'm doing aura and Obi readings for 45. Just let me know. And thank you for tuning in. And Adabo, Hotep, and Namaste, and peace.